What's up, guys? It's your boy Dark Sage back with another video, and today we're gonna be doing What If Deku Was the Reincarnation of Pain, Part 1. But before we get into the video, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, because it'll help a young dude out, but we won't talk about that. So, let's get into the video. So, we start this video off at the quirk doctor. Deku is accompanied by his mom and his twin sister, Izumi. They go to the quirk doctor, and the doctor tests for their quirks. And he comes back, and he says, "Miss, I'm very sorry. I have good news, and I have terrible news." And Inko says, "What is it?" And in this, what if quirkless people are treated like absolute garbage? They're treated like peasants, even by their own family. So, yeah. Good luck with that. But, the doctor says, your son, he's quirkless. And Izuku, he's like, what? I'm quirkless? How could this be? Ooh. But he says, how could this be? There's no way in hell I'm quirkless. And Izumi is laughing at Deku because she doesn't give a fuck. She thinks all quirkless people are losers and disgraceful. And Inko looks at Deku with a face of disgust and says, that damn quirkless brat. I already knew this was going to happen. And so the doctor says, but I have pretty good news. Your daughter, she has a very strong fire quirk. I think it's pyrokinesis. And so Izumi, she celebrates, and they go home. On the way home, Izumi is talking to her mom about how she's going to be a great hero, and Izuku's going to be nothing but a peasant. And this makes Izuku feel left out and angry, because he knows that if he doesn't have a quirk, he's going to be treated horribly for the rest of his life. And so they go home, and I'm going to say, in this one, the father of Izuku is... the father of Izuku is... fuck it. It's Hiyashi. So they get home, and immediately Izumi runs to her father and says, Dad, guess what? And Hiyashi says, what? And Izumi says, I have a pyrokinesis quirk. And Hiyashi says, wow, you can probably become one of the greatest heroes ever. Remember, you just have to train your quirk really hard. And then he says, what about your brother? What quirk does he have? And Izumi says, oh, that loser? He's quirkless. And immediately, and I do mean immediately, a face of disgust comes on Hiyashi's face. And Izuku walks into the room, and Hiyashi says, leave. Go to your room and don't come out for the rest of the day, you quirkless loser. And Deku's like, damn, what did I do to deserve this? What did I do? I did nothing. But since I don't have a quirk, I guess I don't even know. And so Deku goes to his room, and he's locked in. They locked Deku in his room for 3 days without any food or water. He can't even use the restroom. So he has to use fucking cans or bottles that he has in his room. And once those get filled up, he has to start peeing in his room. And so by the 4th day, Izuku, he's a little pale. Because you have to remember, Deku or Izuku is 4 years old. And a 4-year-old without food or water for 4 days isn't gonna look healthy. And so, on the 4th day, Deku is thin and pale. He lost at least 20 pounds. And Izumi and Hiyashi come into the room. And this is when Izumi uses her quirk to burn Deku. And Deku, he's in his mindscape at this time. And he's wandering around. And he sees a man. And this man says, wait. Wait until you're in middle school, kid. I'll be able to help you. Just wait, please. Just wait. And before he leaves, he says, this world shall know pain. And he leaves. And so, once Deku comes out of his mindscape, Izumi and Hiyashi are done beating him. And they put him on a leash. And they strip all of his clothes off of him. Except for his underwear. And they say, you are now our dog, you damn brat. Well, that's what Izumi says. And she takes Deku outside. And he's being forced to walk on all fours. And everybody's looking at him and laughing. And they're all like, look at that damn quirkless loser. And they go to school. And Deku is on a leash. And everybody's laughing at him. And they're picking on him. They're calling him names. They're throwing things at him. They're beating him. They're kicking him. One even tries to stab him. But of course, he doesn't. Because, like, he's a bitch-ass nigga. But, one even tries to stab him. And Izuku, he gets very sad. Like, depressed. He's depressed because his life is shit, basically. His whole life is shit. And he's felt nothing but pain and torment in his life. And so the end of the day comes, and Bakugo and Izumi are dating. So Bakugo and his cronies, they come up to Deku. And they beat the living fuck out of that nigga. They beat him to near his death. But of course, when he got home, nobody cared. They paid all their attention to Izumi. And Izuku hated this. He hated all of them with a passion. And he promised them, when he got his power, he'd destroy them all. And so when Deku, we're gonna have a time skip. So when Deku turns, I don't know. And Deku turns 10. No, 12. Deku is 12 years old. And he finally arrives in middle school. And he's a pale boy, and he's still on the leash. And once he arrives, he's there, and everybody's still picking and yelling at him. But this time, there's a change. Deku immediately passes out and goes into his mindscape. And Pain is there. And Pain says, hello, brat. Well, it seems as if you waited for me all of these years. Well, I'm here now. So here, accept my power. And Pain gives Izuku everything. All his powers, all of his chakra, fucking jutsus, everything. And um Deku has a transformation. Like there's a huge burst of light and it's orange. And Izuku basically looks the same except for he has all of Pain's piercings. In his eyes, he has the Rinnegan. But he's still a little pale. Pain only gave him enough to where he can get a little bit of his weight back. But we're gonna say Deku should be somewhere around 115 to 120. Deku is 75 pounds. But before, he was 42 pounds. Cause that nigga was being starved. But Deku gets 72 pounds. And when the kick comes that the kid was about to deliver to him, he catches its hand. Or his... Damn, I really said his hand. He catches his foot. And he says, "You shall know pain." And he goes to punch the kid. But then he stops. Because his body is too weak. And he passes out. Deku is in a coma now. And he's basically in his mindscape training with Pain. And this goes on for 3 years. And now Deku is 15. About to go into high school. And so when Deku wakes up, his body is fully nourished. And he has orange hair. With all of his piercings are gone. All of his piercings only arrive when he uses the full power of the Rinnegan. I'm sorry, y'all. My idiotic fucking brother came in my room. But, as I was saying. Where was I actually? Yeah. So Deku wakes up from his coma. And his piercings are gone. He can only get his piercings when he's using 50%. We're going to say 50% because I really don't give a fuck. And so Deku knows all of his abilities, his strengths. And because nobody else really has chakra in this world. Well, nobody except for one person. Except for 2 people. Him and another person. But, he doesn't really have any weaknesses. And I just gave y'all a hint, but we won't talk about that. So, Deku basically gets up and he's like, "Nurse." And the nurse comes in and says, "The quirkless brat's awake." And he says, "What did you just say to me?" And the nurse immediately feels Deku's bloodlust. And she says, "Nothing. I'll get your parents." And so she calls the Midoriyas, and they come in and like, "Wow, we really have to go back and claim that damn brat. We already have our precious Izumi, and she's stronger than he'll ever be." Well, they're wrong as fuck, but we won't speak on that. And so they get there and they see a boy with orange reddish hair, and they're like, "Who are you?" And he says, "Oh, that's a shame. You don't even remember your own baby boy, now do you?" And they all look at Deku, and Izumi is like, "Shut up, you dog. Know your place." And she sends a huge fire blast at Deku. But Deku says, "You really think that can do something to me?" And he starts waving hand signs, and he says, "Fireball Jutsu." He doesn't even use... He uses 2% of his power. And it matches the fireball that Izumi shot at him. And Izumi is surprised, and so is his parents, Hiyashi and Inko. They're like, "When did you get a quirk?" And Izuku laughs and he says, guess I'm just a late bloomer, huh? And Izuku says, first, we're gonna make a visit to that doctor. Because he's the one that stole my quirk. Because we're gonna say that Pain told Izuku what happened to his quirk. And so they go to the quirk doctor. And the quirk doctor says, yes, the quirkless brat. Why are y'all here? And Deku grabs his face and slams the quirk doctor to the ground and says, almighty push. And his head explodes in. And everybody is surprised. And the cops are called. And they come in and they search the place and they find evidence that he worked for One for All. Or All for One, sorry. And so they basically put him in a body bag. And fuck it, we're gonna say that his family didn't see it. Neither did everybody else, but they saw the body when Deku left. And so the cops were like, who did this? And Deku goes home and says, well, that was really easy. And he looks at Izumi and he says, well, dear sister, aren't you gonna hit me with a fire blast for being on my 2 feet? And she looks at Deku and is like, shut up, you damn quirkless brat. And Izuku says, I'm not quirkless. Watch your mouth. Matter of fact, I am quirkless, but I'm the best damn quirkless person that'll ever be on this earth. And his whole family scoffs at that. And so we're gonna skip the 10 months training period. And this time, we're gonna say Pain has been fusing with the Deku. And he's unlocking new powers, such as new Rinnegan abilities, like Limbo, and he's eventually going to get Sage Mode. And so, Deku, he goes to the UA entrance exam, and everybody's looking at him. And they're like, who is that? Wait, that's the quirkless loser. And they all start laughing at him. And Deku walks through all of them. And he goes to the fucking exam. He goes to the first exam and he aces that shit. In under 10 seconds, he answers all of the questions and hands it in. And Ida's like, you didn't even do your test. Sit down and retake it. And Izuku looks at him. And he sends a massive amount of bloodlust at Ida. And says, watch your damn mouth, or I'll kill you. And he says this while laughing. Because at this point, Deku was mentally broken. But on top of Pain's power, it broke him even more. Because, Pain's training was harsh as fuck. And Pain doesn't care. And so, Izuku, or Deku, he looks at Bakugo and says, well, Bakugo, I have a score to settle with you after this. And he looks at Izumi and says, your boyfriend won't be along for much longer, dear sister. And walks away. And this is creeping out everybody. Because they're like, what the hell? When did he get this power? And Deku goes to the practical exam. And President Mike is basically waiting. And he's like, did you take your test? And Izuku says, yes, I did. And President Mike said, wow, you were done quick. What's your name? And Deku looks at him and says, well, my name's Izuku Midoriya. But I'll I'll tell you my other name. I'll tell you my other name later. And President Mike thinks about it for a second and is like, his other name? What does he mean by this? And so everybody comes in and President Mike explains, and we're gonna say Deku walked over into the direction of Uraraka, but Ida saw this and he tries to stop it, but Deku immediately sends his bloodlust at Ida. And in his mind, Ida hears, "If you so much as come near me, I'll kill you." And that's a promise. And he stops and falls to his knees and passes out. And so when President Mike says go, Deku flies up in the air and says, "This world shall know pain." And he shoots a planetary devastation at the entire UA campus, or the training ground, just destroying all of the robots, including the Zero Pointers. And Deku says, "By the way, my name's Pain." And I'm gonna be leaving it off there. Hope you guys enjoyed. Bye!